Douglas v. Gibbs, Mr. Constitution. And we hear all the time, the Constitution is antiquated, it's out of touch, there's things that are not in there. And because it's not in there, that just meant that the founding fathers didn't provide for it. They didn't know something was going to happen, something like that. Well, actually, that's not necessarily the case. Now, let's talk about, well, what about those things that are not in the Constitution? Like, I don't know, aviation, M16s, big tech. So, does this provide for that? And we have to, look into the Constitution and realize that. First of all, when it comes to the federal government and their authorities, if it's not in here, they don't have the authority. Now, that would include, say, aviation. Airplanes are not in the Constitution. So does that mean they have no authority over it? Is the FAA unconstitutional? Well, technically it is. Now, they have found a way around that with their idea of implied law. Implied law was created by Alexander Hamilton. It basically says that there are some powers the federal government have that aren't in the Constitution, but are implied by the Constitution. So since the idea of the Commerce Clause is that anything that crosses state lines is automatically a federal authority, which is actually a misdefinition of that clause, but that's a different discussion, then since planes cross state lines, that implies that the federal government has authority over them. Now, I'm not saying that I don't think the federal government should have authority over air travel, but I wish they would have asked for permission. Because what it comes down to when it comes down to authorities is that, first of all, we have what's called the enumeration doctrine. Any authority given to the federal government is expressly enumerated in the United States Constitution. Expressly enumerated items listed in here. If it's not there, they don't have the authority. Well, Doug, if it's not there, they don't have the authority, then what happens? What if something has never happened before and everybody's confused? Like election irregularities. What happens then? Well, if election irregularities are not in the Constitution, and there's nothing that prohibits the state legislatures from being the authorities over that, then per the 10th Amendment, state authorities have authority over that issue. The state legislatures have authority, and therefore the federal government needs to step aside and let the states do what they need to do with audits or whatever. Of course, the problem is we have a federal government that believes it is federally supreme. It is supreme over everything, that there's this hierarchy, and that the federal government rules over the states. The problem is the states created the federal government to serve them, not to rule over them. And the states created the federal government, not the other way around. So that's thing number one. And thing number two is this. The founding fathers understood that there would be things that are not mentioned in the Constitution. There would be new things. That's why they provided for an amendment process. If the federal government wants authority over something, easy. You ask for the authority by proposing an amendment, and then the states can decide whether or not the federal government can have that authority. And it takes 3/4 of the states to ratify that. In other words, the parents over the federal government are the states, since they created it, and the federal government has to ask its parents for permission for more authorities. And it takes a 3/4 or more yes. Simple as that. Well, what about things like M16s, Doug, or big tech? Well, big tech, the states should be responsible for what goes on in their states. Federal government doesn't have any authority. Why aren't the states taxing big tech for any transactions performed by people who click on their sites from their state? I have a friend of mine who has an idea out there for a new law. Say, hey, the states can tax big tech for any transaction committed in their state, and that means clicks that create money, creates profit for those big tech companies. Why aren't the states doing it? Well, what about M16s, Doug? M16s are not mentioned in the Second Amendment. The Founding Fathers were talking about muskets. Surely they wouldn't want the average citizen to own an M16. My first response is, why not? Wasn't the purpose of the Second Amendment in number one, to just honor our right to keep and bear arms, and number two, keep bearing arms because, well, the government could become tyrannical, and if it was for the purpose of us defending ourselves against a tyrannical government, because in the Declaration of Independence it says that we have the right to alter or abolish our government, should it become unconstitutional or despotic or tyrannical, then should we not have equal to or greater than firepower than the federal government? Oh, well, Doug, then you think that people should have F-35s and nuclear bombs. That was one of Biden's quips too. I don't know, but the federal government can't make that law or making that determination. There's no federal authority over guns or weapons. So the federal government can't tell the people they can't have F-35s or nuclear weapons. I'm not saying the people should. I'm saying the federal government can't make those laws. In Federalist 45, James Madison explains that the states are allowed to make certain laws regarding our rights. So if the states want to make laws saying, oh, by the way, we don't want you guys walking around with nuclear weapons, then the states can do that. Well, yeah, but Doug, what if one state allows it? Then one state allows it. If you don't like it, go to that state, become a citizen, and petition to have that changed. Let the states be the laboratories they're supposed to be. Let the states take care of their own business, be autonomous, be sovereign. Just because something's not in the Constitution does not mean it's antiquated. It does not mean they don't know what to do with it. I'll give you another example. In Article 1, Section 5, it gives the federal government the authority to determine the Congress, the authority to determine the eligibility of their own members. But determining the eligibility of president or vice president is not in there. I've been told by the courts, I've been told by the U.S. government's U.S. attorney that, well, the authority to determine eligibility of president or vice president, like to double check to make sure they're natural born citizens or something like that, belongs to Congress. It doesn't say that in the Constitution. There is no place, matter of fact, in the Constitution that it indicates who determines that eligibility. Does that mean they didn't know who should choose it? No. If it's not in the Constitution, it is in the Constitution. If it's not in the Constitution, then that means that it's a state legislature authority because of the 10th Amendment. So let's read the 10th Amendment real quick in our pocket Constitution if you got one. And you know what? If you want to look up the Constitution online, I've got it at douglasvgibbs.com. Go to douglasvgibbs.com, and on the far right of the pictures that have the links is the Constitution. Click that, Constitution Online. So you can also look online if you ever want to access it. And that means you can do it through your phone too, douglasvgibbs.com. So 10th Amendment says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively. State legislatures. But what if the state legislatures don't do their job? What if they don't do what they're supposed to be doing? Well, there's a few more words here. Or to the people. So if the states don't do their job, then the people can. Or to the people. Gosh, Doug, the state should have decertified electoral votes. They didn't. Well, the people need to get involved. Gosh, Doug, we've got politicians that are operating within operating with insurrectionists, giving aid and comfort to insurrectionists or supporting insurrectionists, like groups like Antifa. What do we do with these politicians that are basically committing treason against the United States? 14th Amendment, Section 3 says that they can't hold office. Well, yeah, but how do we arrest them? Because the state legislatures aren't doing it. Or to the people. Common law grand jury, issue an indictment, get a constitutional sheriff to arrest them. There are ways. Ways to do things are in the Constitution. We just have to look and realize that sometimes when it's not there, it's there too, thanks to the 10th Amendment. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Douglas V. Gibbs, Mr. Constitution. United we stand, combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.